Well, next we have Jeff Smieding. Throughout the past 10 years, Jeff Smieding has been a rocker, a roller, and an aspiring writer. He's been heavily involved in the Twin Cities live performance scene, from playing bass in local bands Kentucky Gag Order and Bells of Skin City, to reading original literature with the Lit 6 Project, Electric Arc Radio, Talking Image Connections, and the Riot Act reading series. In that time, Smieding has also managed to garner for himself a Master of Fine Arts degree in creative writing from Hamline University in St. Paul, Minnesota, to go along with his BA in English from the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire. Please welcome Jeff.
Thank you. I wrote a Halloween-y story for today, and it's got a little bit of tugging at the heartstrings too. So, Lorraine, in my apartment, there's half a bowl of mac and cheese in the back of the fridge, and I'm pretty sure it's watching me. I've seen it jiggle when I open the door, like nervously jiggle. And once, I swear, I saw the whole bowl slide away from me when I reached in for some string cheese. You know me, Lorraine. I don't clean out the fridge. I gag when I have to touch old food. So the mac and cheese has been there forever. I don't remember putting it there. I mean, I never save leftover mac and cheese. Nobody does. Well, you did, of course, back at the house. It was always in the name of frugality or some first world guilt. I remember how you would scold me for wasting food, and then you'd throw open the cabinet doors to get a plastic container. You were always so dramatic. You'd rifle through the assorted tubs, complaining about how nobody ever organizes the Tupperware, even though it was just you and me, and we both knew you weren't talking about you. Then you'd take the leftover whatever it was and shove it emphatically in the fridge, vowing to eat it for lunch the next day. Lorraine, I had my reasons, but the main one is just this. Leftover boxed mac and cheese is the worst. At the house, if you had a late night pig out and pack what was left for me the next day, I would dump it at work and grab Jimmy John's. Leftover mac and cheese is like our 20-year high school reunion. Last thing you remember, everything was so great, so filled with flavor and promise. The girls had curves in all the right places, and the guys were all svelte and lean, and everybody was smiling. After 20 years, though, most everybody gets saggy and tasteless. All they want to do is talk about days gone by. A lot of them are divorced, too, but, well, you know how that goes. The other day, I named the mac and cheese Cthulhu. It was still there, still in the back of the fridge. I was originally going to go with something like Mittens or Rover, since I was hoping it would be a pet. Like, maybe it would grow paws and a tail and match the blue-white fur already sprouting up all over it. Maybe every night, I'd open up the fridge and my mac and cheese would bound out onto the floor, tail wagging, and I'd let it jump up onto the bed and it would sleep next to me, soft and warm and comforting in the night. At least, that was my original plan anyway. What ended up happening though, Lorraine, and I thought you'd especially appreciate this, was that the mac and cheese started watching me. Like, really watching me. One night I reached into the fridge for a can of beer, and like I always do, I checked to make sure my soon-to-be pet was still there, but it wasn't. I remember my heart skipping a beat, like a real beat. One where I felt it swell up inside my chest, and then it thumped back into place. Frantically, I pushed aside the contents of the top shelf, but my mac and cheese was gone. It wasn't hiding behind the hot dogs or the egg carton. It wasn't under the week-old slice of pizza wrapped in tin foil. I mean, I knew I didn't move it. And since I got into my apartment, it was just me. You didn't move it. Who did? I was panicking, Lorraine. I was terrified. But what happened next was even worse. I realized that I could feel someone or something watching me. I slowly turned to my right, and there in the butter nook on the inside of the refrigerator door was my mac and cheese staring at me. The fur had grown out now and changed color too. Before it looked fuzzy, almost cute. Now it was wild, like some gray-green long-haired beast from the Serengeti. It had tentacles spilling out from the lip of the bowl, and I swear, Lorraine, one of them recoiled when I looked at it. I knew right then and there what I had to do. I had to nip this thing in the bud before it got any bigger, any uglier. So, Cthulhu. I admit it, Lorraine. Since we split, I went back to old habits, dark places. I started back up again with my old role-playing friends. I'm back on the D&D, of course. You knew that I would be. Also, I'm hitting D20 Modern and this old 90s game, Call of Cthulhu. It's great, Lorraine. You would hate it. You pretend to be an early 1900s normal nobody who has to confront these horrific, unspeakable terrors, gods and monsters. No one ever wins a Cthulhu game. Winning isn't the point. The point is not to die and to not go crazy. But every single character in every single game either dies or goes crazy. It's like a metaphor for life, basically. And Cthulhu is this giant with a human body and an octopus head and a big tentacle mouth and dragon wings, and it's just crazy. Anyway, it was the tentacles, of course, that I thought of when I first saw what was happening to my mac and cheese. So yes, right then and there, Lorraine, I named my mac and cheese Cthulhu, the undying, the eater of souls. I knew what I had to do. I had to destroy Cthulhu, utterly and completely. Tentatively, I reached out for it. But at the very second my fingers glanced across the lip of the bowl, there was a knock at the door. For real. I know it's hard to believe, Lorraine, that kind of thing only usually happens in horror movies or bad short stories, but here it was, happening for real. I gave Cthulhu one last look, and then I shut the refrigerator door, vowing to come back in a moment and finish what I had set out to do. Unfortunately for me, and fortunately for Cthulhu, the knock at the door turned out to be that of a young woman. Young, and of course stunningly beautiful in a goth kind of way. Her hair was coal black and her skin was pale white, and she had eyes like sapphires. She was all dressed in black, and it was those eyes, Lorraine, electric and blue, and dare I say, impossible. She was new to the building. She lived across the hall. She wanted a cup of sugar, and she wouldn't normally ask a neighbor, but she was baking a cake for her sister's 30th birthday, and she just didn't have the time to make it to the store and back. So I invited her in. She hesitated for a long, weird second, and then she entered. Her name was Dahlia, and she was from New Orleans, and she just moved to Minneapolis with a diuretic cat named Lestat, and yes, she knew she was a little overboard with the whole Anne Rice thing, but it was a phase she went through when she was younger. Lestat was like 15 and couldn't hold his bladder for more than 30 minutes, which had made for an interesting flight to Minnesota, as she told it. She moved there with her ex-boyfriend because they both liked the Vampire Chronicles. They broke up, and she had just moved back to take care of her mother, Agnes, who has dementia. Dahlia hoped she didn't talk my ear off, and I said no, not at all, and she smiled. It was awesome, Lorraine. I mean, here I was, actually conversing casually with a beautiful woman, and I was single for the first time in forever. I mean, if I wanted to, I could ask her on a date. I was so overwhelmed by the thing that I forgot completely about Cthulhu. When she left, I remember sitting down on the couch and having this crazy life revelation, like, I'm almost 40 and I live by myself and I'm fat, maybe, fatter than I used to be anyway, and I need to get fit and get some new clothes and make myself over. I need to be new again. And then I realized, no offense to you, Lorraine, that I wasn't thinking about you for the first time in God knows how long. So I ran to the store, got myself some weights and a nice new pair of slacks and a button-down shirt, a belt, some shiny black shoes. It was all black, actually, maybe inspired by the goth girl, maybe by the Johnny Cash I was listening to in the car. But when I got home, Lorraine, I took a long hot shower and I vowed to cleanse myself of you. Again, no offense. And just as I dressed, there was a knock at the door. It was Dahlia, again, still beautiful as she'd been earlier that day. My heart jumped once more, hoping maybe she wanted to go out for coffee or a drink. Instead, it was butter she was after, for some cream frosting on the cake. I remember her remarking as she went toward the kitchen about all the pictures of you on the walls. Is that your sister? She asked. Wife, I answered. Ex-wife, I said. She said she thought it was weird that I had pictures of you still on the wall, and then apologized for being too honest. Everybody always told her that. She asked if I still loved you, and I said the opposite, really. And then I got kind of mad, a little anyway, so I told her to help herself, and I went to go brush my teeth so she wouldn't see how mad I was. When I left the room, I heard the refrigerator door open. There was a scream, blood-curdling. I heard some commotion, the rattling of the fridge, thunderous footsteps, and then silence. This is what I'm writing you about, Lorraine. Dahlia was gone, nowhere to be found, and when I finally got up the courage to open the refrigerator door, there was Cthulhu, grinning widely, as only a hairy tentacled god of macaroni and death can. I don't know if I'll ever know what happened to her. I assume she ran home, horrified by Cthulhu, but I haven't seen her since, coming or going from her apartment, in need of a cup of anything. Did Cthulhu eat her? Spirit her away to some alien dimension? I'll never know. But I do know this, Lorraine, as I write to you now. I'm going to take Cthulhu out of my fridge. I'm going to take him and I'm going to throw him into the deepest depths of Lake Calhoun, and I'm going to never look back. Bad things don't turn good, Lorraine. I know that now. You maybe always did. I'm going to take your pictures off my wall. This is the last you'll ever hear from me. These are my last words. So long, and thanks for all the leftovers. Howard.